Okay.
All right. Hello, welcome to the second session of the Open Call to Documenters Weekend, the first documented weekend for OSCEdays. We are here to talk about all the activities that we want to share and document and create to the event. Now is in June 8th to 12th. And maybe know a little more about what activities have the cities and what want to do to these days. No, maybe we can begin with Turin. Hello, Natalie.
You have to turn on your
Hello?
mic, Anna.
Yeah.
Now you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Natalie. I live in Turin, and last year I did the OSCEdays here in Turin. Last year was about just like a general concept about what circular economy and open source, and we try to contact like a few groups or organizations who were interested in open source and circular economy. This year we are doing something a bit more challenging, and it's about refugees and how to combine refugees with open source and circular economy. So far we have like it's not very well structured. We are working on it, and is how can we help from circular economy to a big problem we have right now in the city. So I don't know if I have to keep talking or yes, no. Okay. First of all, we want to do social integration, and we have like there are a few organizations, and they are trying to help refugees and to integrate refugees in Italian social life. So there is Refugees Welcome Torino, and there are Cooperativa Isola. They are working to get like internship refugees to help them to introduce and how to get on with the Italian culture, and always with always having a good relation or trying to help the circular economy. So for this year, we were thinking about having refugees, people talking about how this integration has been done and how they feel about the process, and what are their feelings, like how they feel in a completely different environment and complete different context about and the risk or the problem they have had living in a country is not their country and they don't speak this language. So this is like an introduction for this year. We want to talk about global dishes and critical consumption, how we can develop a relationship between Italian culture and foreigner or a foreigner culture from food. I think Italy is a big country, and the main characteristic is food. So we thought it was a good opportunity to make like a link between other cultures and other characteristics and other food from probably using wasted food that you usually we have a big supermarket. No, it's a big open market in Turin, and it's called Porta Palazzo. And there are a few organizations. One of them is Eco della Città, and they have like they have a group called Sentinelle dei Rifiuti. That it means people who go there wait until 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and they try to take or they try to save food that is usually wasted. So how can we use it for these global dishes? How can we cook them from people that we don't know, from another culture? And how can we probably introduce in this culture and probably get a profit that can be used for them, or maybe for a project they want? So far, this is like a big view about what we are thinking about doing in Turin for this year.
Yeah, Natalie, you told me before that it was an activity that served as an excuse to talk about the problem of refugees, and you have a very interesting phrase. Could you talk a little about it?
We were talking,
like the refugees are.
Okay, we had like a kind of like equation or a mathematic operation. It's about refugees. Wait, I had it right on here. Refugee is to waste as waste is to resource. So we want to name like it's a strong title we want to use, and but we are scared how people is gonna take it. But I know it's gonna be a bit of a kind of challenge, because we usually, or people usually think they are here to rob, or they are here to invade a space that Italians are not get used to that situation. So why do we don't change that thinking? Why we don't change that mind? And we stop thinking about as a problem, and we start thinking about a resource, like a solving problem.
That's super. That's super cool. We did here in Berlin 3 years ago a trade school with refugees called the Refugee Trade School, I guess. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of a trade school, but in the trade school, everyone can become a teacher, and it's sharing knowledge, and you get barter for it. So knowledge for barter. And we had in 2013 already a lot of refugees here in Berlin. And of course, they aren't allowed to work here, which is really a problem, because work is the way how you connect to your environment. So we set up this trade school, and they could ask for barter and not for money. So practically it wasn't a job, but they could ask for something they needed, and they could share their knowledge. And this was also a way to make them visible as people that aren't here in Berlin to take something, but to show that they have also brought something. And we just need to find a way to make use of their skills.
Yeah, we have been reading about circular immigration. That is pretty much what you were talking about. So it's like how we can teach them, or how we can use their skills to develop different things, or to teach them what they need, if they need anything, if they need how to grow food, if they need to make a bed, if they need anything, maybe we can teach them, and they can go back to their country and keep teaching what they have learned in here. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Natalie. Maybe now we can introduce Belinda. I think I understood that Belinda is in Toronto. No?
No, I'm actually, well, I was in Toronto yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So I'm based in Vancouver, but
okay.
I do work all over the place, and so
okay.
I've got two cities happening at once.
Okay. So tell about the activities you want to create, or maybe you are already prepared to this weekend.
Sure. So one thing I wanted to share is, because the theme of this weekend is documentation jam, is the resources that we created with the Vancouver event last year. So what I'll do actually is I'll just paste the link to our, I'm just going to do this right now. I'm just going to paste a link to this folder in the Riot chat just so that you can take a look at it. So we really wanted to embrace making sure that people can, you know, use all the resources that we created for their own events and to learn from it. So to give you a bit of background, last year in Vancouver, we did a one-day, fairly small event, not nearly as big as some of the other ones, but we wanted to test the idea of how interested is the Vancouver community in a hackathon on the circular economy. And we partnered with the Startup City Impact event. So there were a lot of other events on startups. So we had a very big focus on different startup organizations within the city that were working on their own, you know, business plan, and they're trying to figure out how they can scale up or get further with their business. So some of the cool ones that were there, for example, Hailu, they are using food waste to make a protein from black soldier fly, and then they want to get that to be turned into protein powders and other good sources of protein for people to consume. There was another one venture which was on connecting people with surplus food to markets or organizations that would want to buy that food. So we have quite a bit of a food focus. A lot of people are really interested in food. And another example of a startup that we had at our event was the Zero Waste Market. So they're starting a market that is completely zero waste. So each of those groups had a certain challenge or something, an idea that they wanted to explore, and so the people joined them and worked on that for the day. So we took a structure where we wanted to provide people with mentors, and so we had different mentors that had different methodologies or frameworks to help people work through a challenge. And we also had an expert panel. So the expert panel was able to provide some feedback to each of those groups. So in the documentation folder, you can see that we have a short report on the event, as well as all the materials that we created. So we created a guide for volunteers, we created a guide for mentors, for participants. We had an icebreaker activity, so we called it like a little bingo to get participants to know each other better. We have an evaluation form that is in there, and I'm just seeing what else we have just to give people an idea of the materials. And we have, you know, almost some logistics types things as well. So there's one that's called considerations for future events. So it's just everything that we can think of like, if you were to run another event like this, here's what you should consider, because we tried to run it as a zero waste event and had a few things we were able to do well and others that were a bit more challenging. And let's see what else. And then we just even had our like kind of code of conduct and registration information so that if anyone wants to borrow it, they can. So that's what we did for last year. And then for this year, we're going to do a similar event in Vancouver. So taking similar format, it'll be on June 3rd. We have a team that's set up for that. And then the exciting news is that I was just in Toronto this past week talking to different people about their interest in having OSCEdays in Toronto, and it was very positive. So we will be running an event in Toronto on June 10th. So that will actually fall within the days of the global event, and it will be a food-themed hackathon, since we'll be partnering with a social innovation lab called the Food Systems Lab. And so they're right now we just did a workshop on designing solutions, and the next workshop is on prototyping solutions. So this hackathon will be an add-on to that workshop to get a broader involvement of the public, as well as other people who are not currently part of the Food Systems Lab, to engage and look at ways of making food more circular within Toronto, within an urban environment. So that's what we have.
Okay.
That's super cool. I'm just have opened the Howdy Bingo. Can you explain a little bit how this worked? A little bit more?
Sure, sure.
The Howdy Bingo is one of the resources shared in the Vancouver documentation folder from last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we call it howdy because, you know, in English, one way of saying hi is howdy, and it's 5 letters. That's the main reason we had it. So the way it worked was, as soon as people walked in to the event, we gave them the sheet, and your goal is to fill the entire form with different names. So it forces you to have to go up to someone and ask them, for example, hey, do you have any car share memberships in Vancouver? And it's just a conversation starter, because they can either say, well, yes, I do. I'm a member of Car2Go and Evo and Moto. Or they might say, oh, I've never heard of car shares before. What is that? And so the themes of each of the items are various things with like a circular or sharing economy, or just general environmental sustainability. And it's to help people find connections to each other. And so what you do is, when you find out a fact about somebody, you write their name in the box. And then once you finish the entire sheet where you have a name in each box, then you get entered into a raffle for a prize. So it was a way to get people to start talking to each other, because a lot of people didn't know each other there, and we wanted an excuse for people to interact.
And that's really cool. And did it work well?
Yeah, it did. It did. A lot of people learned a lot of fun facts about each other. And so we're probably going to do something similar this year, but change up the questions.
Yeah, maybe put more circularity and focus. I think this would be really cool. Awesome. I think we will copy this here in Berlin. I like it.
Cool. Yeah, feel free. Share it far and wide. And it'll be cool to actually see like what modifications you make to it and just how it works there.
Yeah, let's develop the next iteration together. That's cool. Yeah. I will share our questions. Okay.
There is Marco now.
Hi everybody. Very happy to meet you guys. Hi from Bolivia.
Hi from Colombia and from Vancouver also.
Great. I'm very happy to meet you today. And I don't know, I want to share some ideas. I don't know where is the time to do that.
Oh, just begin to speak and talk about the ideas and maybe what activities are you documenting in not only for OSCED, maybe another activity you already have done.
Okay. So first of all, I want to share some experience about Fab Labs. I have a very different approach than most of the Fab Labs that I know, because most of them are academic Fab Labs. It means that they are public funded. Instead of that, we are a grassroots Fab Lab that we buy all our tools. So we experience a very different situation, and also we want to build a green fab lab. So it is a very different situation and experience. And then what is very interesting is that the idea is becoming to gain some traction, and we are sharing with this idea of building fab labs with some people around the world with different fab labs, and some people says, well, it's a very good idea to make green fab labs also, and we start to discuss about the approach. So what we want is to to find out the way that people could to gain in self-sufficiency. So it is the main motive, it is the first and the ultimate goal of the Fab Lab Bolivia, Fab Lab Verde, Fab Lab Green Fab Lab Bolivia, to become a self-sufficient Fab Lab, and it means that we also want to establish an industrial Fab Lab, which is a set of 10 tools around and a farm, an integrated farm that has a special unit that is a biolab. So in that matter, we are designing our own approach, and it is a different approach. It's a bottom-up approach. There is a initiative that is led by Thomas Diaz that is named Fab Cities. The same goals: sustainability, circular economies, productive cities, etc., but in the top-bottom approach. So it is a very different approach because top-down approach have a different set of opportunities and challenges. Government and public policy have the potential to push through massive change, especially when people recognize a major threat. Government is needed to address major failures, problems that cannot be perceived as a win-win business opportunities. In that scale, it's needed major decision, major capital, etc., etc. So instead of that, we emphasize a bottom-up approach to solving social and environment problems. It means, or it implies, radical innovation and radical technology transfers. With these two, important or main goals, as circular economy and self-sufficiency.
Marco, I have a question. In terms of the practical stuff you are going to build in your Fab Lab, is there any documentation you found on the web that you can recommend for others to use as well to build something, or will you build up everything from scratch and from the things you have in your mind, but no tutorials you found somewhere?
No, I will put not only the research, but also the code, and also the files that is needed in order to cut with the laser cutter the pieces of the for instance the bioreactor, for example. That is the goal of that is my goal in this journeys, to offer everybody free documentation for everybody and to build on that. So we get an agreement with Fast Society, with this Netherlands. And then we are trying to work on a prototype of a bioreactor, because the main the heart of the system, of our system, is based on an algae. So we are trying to set up a system in which the algae could provide us most of the most of the products that is needed in order to cut the operational cost of the integrated farm.
Cool.
So,
yes.
what we want to do is a very I don't know how to say that, scalable and modular approach. We want to put a bioreactor of algae linked to an aquaponic installation. And this is the first thing to get the documentation. And then over that will be another, subsystems of the major installation that is the integrated farm.
Cool. Just, I don't know if you have seen it. Yesterday, someone shared, I think, on the Facebook group, a documentation for a grow room. It's an open source grow room made with tools you can find in a Fab Lab. Yeah, and I also know some sources for open source aquaponic systems. In case you can find something, just post a question on our forum, and I will find the links and share it with you, I believe.
Yeah, we use we are based on a project that is open source ecology. Do you know about that?
Of course.
And,
yes.
and they have a prototype of aquaponics. The innovation here is that we are trying to link our installation to a biorefinery of algae, both chlorella and spirulina. In that way, we're going to have just like a main engine based on algae. As you know, algae also has another features that is very interesting that Belinda knows more than we, better than we. That is the bioremediation, and cleaning the water or cleaning the air. So it is a very interesting approach to make an installation, a circular economy installation that use the algae as a major, as a central engine.
That sounds really cool, and I just understood that you have probably researched much more for resources about aquaponics, and I would be happy if you can share some of these resources with me. Maybe you can post it on the forum or maybe in our chat. I would love to check it out. Cool.
Okay, so do you think that it's a good idea to open a folder in Google Drive in order to upload books and papers over there?
I think that's one way. If you are comfortable with this way of sharing, that's great. Yeah. And then we can share the link on the OSCEdays forum and in other places in the web as well. Yeah, Google Drive, I think, will work for the coming decade, at least.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Marco.
Okay, and maybe Ricardo, you can tell what you are up to this weekend, or maybe at OSCEdays Bogota.
Okay, just I began first presenting one of the people here.
Hi,
Bogota.
I'm Sandra. I'm part of the staff of OSCEdays in Bogota. Ricardo sometimes can't be in the meeting, so sometimes I will be present to share the information and also to know about all the things that are making all the cities. Bogota here is looking to connect different Fab Labs and spaces of co-working of the city with the idea of developing collective design activities. We are thinking about some topics. First, continue with the project of the lean prosthesis made with recycled materials. We began in the past OSCEdays, and the developing of the project was until December. This year we will start the next week. Finishing the design and the prototypes.
Here in the chat, I let the link to Google Drive, where we are document all the activities. I'm sorry because this is almost all in Spanish, but you can find some photographies or check some design blueprints, and also the 3D files to the project. So maybe with time I can translate all of this, and maybe this is one of the activities we gonna do from the next week for this of the prosthetic. Also, I am documented another activity that is called Mod Reco, a modular workshop, and now I'm here. Here is the link. This is an activity I want to be part academic, part open to all the people and all the community of OSCED, on also wherever they want to work. Is going to be an activity that mix this part of academic and makers. What it is looking to is to generate some concept of modular products during a course of sustainability design at the university, and that serve as a basis for verification and implementation of a smart production by Fab Labs, maker, and all people in the city. Is also excuse to speak about open design, modularity, open source. Other activities that we are trying to create is now with three cities here in Colombia: Bucaramanga, Bogotá, and Medellin. Want to generate an open source product workshop in order to generate small productive groups in each city, then with allow to opening of marketing challenge to these local producers. I mean, maybe an open platform to let to these little producers allows to sell this product in other cities and can be produced by other similar producers. And the last activity we want, and there is a dialogue with Sao Paulo in Brazil and Cochabamba in Bolivia with Marco, also to find some activities to promote the development of the circular economy projects and the mapping of how is the circular economy in Latin America. This is one of our concern, to understand what's happened with this approach here. Another thing that maybe Lars can help me is try to understand how to what recommendations can you make to carry out this documentation? What are the important points that should be taken into account? What can we do to allow to this documentation and the event reach more people?
I don't know. I think very good is to have a picture at the beginning. So maybe a picture of an event where a lot of people are, or a picture of the things that you have built, so people know why to read further. What can they build? And then, yeah, I'm a friend of step-by-step guides and huge headlines, because they allow that you can cross-scan a text, especially a longer tutorial, and find quicker what you're looking for. So this would be my first two recommendations. And if it's about documenting a hardware product, at some point there's this French guys, they have this platform called Wikifab. And it's very, very successful. The French maker community is crazy about it, and they use it. And the platform is based on a wiki at the same software that the Wikipedia is using. So it's an open source software, and the guys make their whole project also open source. And I think this is really something we should all look at and test, and maybe it's the thing that will bring us much further. So these are the three recommendations that I would have for now.
Thank you.
I want to share what this morning I already said what I plan to do this weekend. I want to check the circular design guide that was published last month by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and see, because there are a lot of worksheets in there that allow people to come up with circular solutions, or understand them, or even build them. And I plan to look at it today, but I got a visitor, and we ended up discussing 4 hours open source, circular economy, and platforms. So I still haven't really looked at it, but I'm not sure. Belinda, have you checked this resource? Or Ricardo or Marco, have you checked this resource by the EMF? And if so, could you recommend one of their worksheets that might be worth looking at and share?
This is impeccable timing, because it was just this morning when I was starting to flip through it. So I haven't gone through it in enough detail yet, but we are definitely planning to use parts of that for both Toronto and Vancouver, because so far I've just been taking a look, and it's really nice frameworks, and I see that it was co-developed by IDEO, and I've used other IDEO tools before, and they usually are like really, really well done. So this is something I'm looking at this weekend. So I'll take a look and probably, let you all know what I find and put that on the forum.
Fantastic, because I think I will create tomorrow a little topic about it and share what I found so far. And yeah, please leave a comment there if you can recommend something. Yeah, I'm really happy about this resource as well. I heard some negative stuff about it too, but didn't sound too serious. I'm really curious, and looking forward to check it out. Ricardo, did you have the time to look at it?
Yeah, it's something that I have to revise to see, but it seemed incredible that this time of tools serve to promote the circular economy. And also, in addition, I think that that is a really interesting tool to the academics, to maybe to connect the academic to the reality, and it's also then I'm an industrial designer, and I think that is a new way to see the development of products and of projects.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, great. So far, anyone else has something to share in this call?
That's it for me. I feel like I'm ready to get to work.
Yeah, good. Hey, it was really nice to meet you all, and yeah, looking forward to hear more from you and see you again. And let's do something. Yes.
Thanks, everybody. I'm very happy to meet you, and I'm very, able to be contacted anytime in Facebook, especially. Today and tomorrow, sharing with you the documentation and trying to do the best thing in order to make a project that could be replicated worldwide. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Bye from Bogota. I think it's important to start working and to unite the activities that are carried out in different cities. So we are welcome to participate all the cities and create almost at least one event in group, no?
Okay. Any last words from you, Belinda?
No, that's it. It was great to meet all of you online, virtually, and I look forward to seeing what you all do in the next few months.
Cool. So bye-bye and see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Lars.